And in his computer, he'll have like some weird stuff.
The game was terrible as all hell. It was so bad.
Just get through the animation. I've seen this already. Every day you're in the house playing the games. Leave the house and go play with your friend. Get out. Most of us have heard this a lot throughout our youth. Unless you're like me and you still hear it because your mum won't leave you alone. But I digress. The truth is, video games don't always have the best reputation when they're associated with children. Parents inevitably blame them for their kids' bad behavior or falling grades. However, video games have numerous virtues. They help develop team spirit, meditation, learning, and hand-eye coordination. And that's without counting the unforgettable memories they leave us with once we become adults. Everyone remembers their first Pokemon, their first Sim, their first police car chase in GTA, the first time they got a beat down in Tekken, and their first time playing on Rainbow Road. There are some video games that we will always remember, but there are also ones that helped us within our formative years. Without Chun-Li, I would have never learned to just keep kicking no matter what. Kids' games have come a very long way. Today they can build gravity-defying structures in Minecraft, or the type of tropical islands in Animal Crossing that would make sandals jealous. If you're a grown-up lamenting the passing of the years, it's possible to play a small child, a teenager, or even a baby in video games. But be careful, childhood is not always cozy and bright. It can even sometimes be very creepy. Some video games are especially scary, notably when you're playing the baby in Among the Sleep, or Amicia in A Plague Tale: Innocence. Today, some video games can help children and teenagers, and even victims of abuse. During one of the COVID-19 lockdowns, an avatar with blue skin and wings appeared in Fortnite. Operating the character were the volunteers of the child abuse charity, L'Enfant Bleu. They enabled more than 300 young players to speak to an adult through the game and get the help that they needed. So a big thank you to them, and thank you to video games. Welcome to Talk, and joining me to discuss childhood, I have Aoife Wilson, presenter, writer, streamer for Eurogamer, David Fernández Huerta, who is the studio art director for UsTwo Games and game director of Alba, a wildlife adventure, and also Aurie Styla, stand-up comedian and broadcaster. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What's going on?
So we're going to talk about childhood, so I'm going to launch straight into it. What was the first game that you've ever played as a child?
Oh, first game ever. So the thing about my childhood was, right, I was always copying my older brother, who was 10 years older than me and always had like...
Dangerous.
We didn't have a bunch of money growing up, so he would always he would get the games and I would get the hand-me-down games. So I think he gave me his old original PlayStation and there was just a bunch of discs and I didn't know what any of them were. So it was just a case of putting them in, playing them for 10 minutes and seeing if I liked them. And I think Tomb Raider was one of those games, which is a good start. And then he also had Half-Life on our old PC as well. And so I think that was a good start, right?
Yeah, definitely. Solid start. Yeah. Good RPG start. What about you, Aurie?
Oh, man.
Sorry, I interrupted you when you were
I can't remember what my first game is. I remember my first consoles, and I think based on that, I'll be able to say what the games were. So, first ones I had at my house, Master System, and it would have probably been Alex the Kid because it came free with the Master System. As soon as you turned it on, it was there. So it's probably that was one of the first games. But I can't remember if I had that first or my Game Boy first. But really, we're talking in 1990, 1991, those were the first games I ever really remember getting into. I probably played at my cousin's house some, but those are the ones that my first memories kind of stuck with. Alex the Kid, Super Mario on Game Boy, or Sonic the Hedgehog, but the Master System version, which was like a real downgraded version of the Mega Drive.
Basically,
different game.
Yeah, totally different music and it was a different game.
What about you, David?
Yeah, I didn't have a console or anything to play at home until I was, I don't know, 9 or something like that. So, but I remember going to my dad's work and in his computer he'll have some weird stuff. And I remember playing this Q-Basic Gorilla where you have to input the angle at which you want to throw a banana to the other gorilla who is played by another player.
Sounds technical already.
Sounds
too technical.
Exactly.
And
it's and my brother was my brother will be, I don't know, 5 at that point or something, and trying to type and the wind resistance is this, and trying to blow up the other gorilla. It's this King Kong setting in 3 colors.
Yeah.
And I was there's something magical about this.
The way you describe it, yeah, it doesn't sound
I don't know if I would have enjoyed that as a kid, to be honest with you.
Well,
Wind resistance
I can
at the
tell you this,
angle of-
if you throw the banana and it hits the sun opens its mouth.
Oh, okay. That's
Okay, so it's
I was expecting some real mathematics there.
yeah, it's cute though.
Yeah, but going to cousins' houses was definitely a thing in our family.
100%.
as well.
Big
Like,
time.
yeah, I remember like every single time we'd go to our cousin's house, I'd start like a new game of Pokemon, or I'd start a new game of like, I think it was Ocarina of Time or something, and it'd be like, how far can I get through this game before I have to go home again?
You're going to start him off. He's a Nintendo fan. So when you mention Ocarina of Time, he's just going to love it.
Oh mate, one of the best games on the 64, 100%. I remember, luckily you could save on Ocarina of Time, but I remember there were games that I'd go to like a family member's house and all of us would want to play a game. Streets of Rage would probably be the one. You couldn't save, so what we would do, we'd maybe I'd stay over for the night, we'd play a game. If it got late, we had to go to bed. We'd pause the game, but turn the TV off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
That's
Because
the
you couldn't
trick.
save, so we could carry on the next day because we were going to start the whole thing again if we're like on
You
the
didn't
like
get cut
the
out
7th.
about the electric bill?
Exactly. No, we didn't let them know. That's why the TV went off. So they didn't know it was really
sneaky.
on because they had no idea. They just thought the red light was standby mode. So
All right, so what game did you play as a kid that no one remembers today?
Q-Basic Gorilla.
Basically, because no one knows what you're talking about right now.
I can't think of one for this because as I say, like my brother had this stack of games, and one of them was, I think, like a tie-in for, was it Armageddon with Bruce Willis?
Apocalypse with Bruce Willis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And because I didn't have a lot of choice, it was like, I think I'm
That's
probably the only
That's a really
person.
fun game.
Is it
I do remember this game, yeah.
What about you?
me, so there's one game I'm sure nobody ever played other than me. That's probably why it didn't do well. It's a game called Cyberdeck, right? It was on the PlayStation. It was a cross between a platform on kind of surfboards that used to go down half pipes and defeat enemies, and it was a really weird game. But the thing that I loved about it, I'm a fiend for soundtracks for video games and movies. I used to play the game waiting to hear a song called My Mate Paul that would be played on that. The game was terrible as all hell. It was so bad. If it's probably one of the worst voted games on the PlayStation ever, but that's one game that no one ever really seems to remember, but I remember fondly because of the music.
For me, I think, okay, I'm an MMO person. So anyone played Ion? No. See, there we go. All right, next question.
Now, what's Ion about?
It's like, so it's the typical MMO. You have your classes, Bard, Mage, Warrior, Tank, all that stuff. I don't remember the story very well. I just remember that I was going around killing things, killed 8 crabs and all that stuff. It was my laptop at the time was powerful enough for me to play on that game, and it was just typical MMO really, but left a little bit of mark on me. It was that said, what game left a mark on you other than throwing bananas
at the sun.
into the sun?
Well, so my dad had also in his computer Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis.
Yes, okay.
Which is such an incredible, so atmospheric, and you come from a banana throwing game to this, which is this intricate plot and all these characters really interesting, and it's like playing a film. And I was like, mind blowing. And of course, that probably was my second game. And then, it's that power of the things they can experience in a game that you cannot experience them in any other medium like that.
Yeah.
Is something that, I think often about.
Probably often around the time of the movies as well, so that even that education from the movies, you can just imagine it in the game. It makes you feel more connected.
And fill in the gaps, the 4-pixel big
exactly.
face.
You know what it actually is supposed to look like on screen.
It does look like Harrison Ford.
Aoife, what about you?
There's 2 really. I think one would be Final Fantasy VII, just because before playing that, I just didn't know the games could tell stories that were that complex and that interesting, and in a way that films and TV just couldn't. And then also on the MMO thing, World of Warcraft was that was such a formative game for me. I think I played it I don't want to know how many hours, but about 6 years on and off.
Can I give you an unpopular opinion?
What?
Everyone hates me for this.
Go on, say it.
Never played and never got into Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, damn. I thought he was going to say World of Warcraft.
Yeah, so did I.
No. Oh, no, World of Warcraft is, if I said that, you'd know there's many people that might go, okay, I've not really gotten into it. I understand World of Warcraft, but Final Fantasy VII,
Have you ever been tempted?
because I'm not the biggest of RPG fans. And I felt like because it was turn-based originally.
I hate turn-based
I
games.
hate
Sorry, I had to put
turn-based.
that out
Fair,
there.
no, it's
Just had to put it out there.
Only Pokemon would be the one turn-based game that I'm like, I love. But when it came to other turn-based fighting games or turn-based RPG games, Final Fantasy just didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
But everybody tells me, get the remake, play it,
Yeah.
and you'll understand why, because you said the storytelling in that is amazing. And I've never done it. I may have to try.
The turn-based thing is fair though, because there's no greater example of how our attitudes have shifted to gaming than me trying to play the original now without that fast-forward feature that they have.
Yeah,
Like, just
exactly.
get through the animation sequence already.
It's just never been a thing for me. I've always, even Pokemon, like I played it and then I'd be like,
Did you watch the cartoons?
of course, I had all the cards. How are you gonna test me?
I think that's what made me love the game so much is because of the cartoons and it being turned into actually a good game as well.
Yeah, I have no patience for that. Like, just hurry up and beat me or let me beat you.
Okay.
All of this time-based, turn-based, no, all that shenanigans.
Nah, I love that in Pokemon, but nowhere else.
What kind of kids were you? Oh, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, I was only going to say, because, we put all that time in and you're like, you
Yeah.
build your Pokemon that way.
So I'll just explain, I don't like JRPGs as a kid. What kind of kids were you? What kind of children were you at a young age?
Growing up, I had Sega consoles, so I was a big fan of Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's my guy.
And it's such again like a weird, complex world and everything to explore. And the characters, I was one of those kids that will draw original Sonic characters. I'm not ashamed.
My guy. I used to draw Knuckles all the time.
Oh,
He
Knuckles,
was
so good. How can he be so good? I don't understand. That character design is just perfect.
perfect.
Oh, that's so sweet.
What was the name of one of them?
Good question. Dragon Ball was really popular in Spain, right?
Okay.
So, and at that point, like, there was this fusion thing where, like, characters will fuse with one another. So I did a fusion of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles.
Tuckles.
Knuckles.
I think it was
Dragon Tuckles.
no, some tail, something like that. And he was green and had tails fringe and the dreadlocks from Knuckles, and he had like a weird like bandana like Rambo, and he had claws like Wolverine.
Sounds badass.
I used to,
Sounds
out
badass.
of paper, I used to do these little folding, like, little balloon things that you could do, small ones, right? But I made an idea, because when you used to blow them up, they looked like Knuckles' hands. So I sellotaped loads of paper together, folded it, did a big blow up so I could put my hands in it and look like Knuckles.
I love that.
Oh my God, it looks so, you're bringing me back now.
Creativity.
That's awesome.
So you were creative, you liked Sonic and used to draw original characters.
Yep.
Aoife?
I was just weird and introverted, honestly. Like,
Same,
it was
girl,
just,
same.
yeah, it was just, I want my little games that I can play by myself. And then MMOs happened, and I still played them by myself, but it kind of got me out of my shell a little bit.
Did you change during your teenage years?
Only because my friend forced me to. Like, I have a very vivid memory of playing World of Warcraft on like a Friday night with as a young teenager, my friend coming into the room being like, "What are you doing? We need to go out and actually live our lives." And that was like, yeah, okay, fair enough.
It's good. It's kind of like getting the balance during your teenage years as
Yeah.
well. Did you change during your teenage years? Did your taste change?
I grew out my hair,
Okay. Okay.
which I can't
Significant
do
changes.
anymore. I think I got into kind of like gothic dark stuff. I love Diablo a lot.
Oh, okay.
And that kind of stuff. I see, if I look at my teenage years, like, it'll be me playing Diablo too.
From 13 to 18.
Yeah, exactly.
Diablo.
Yeah.
Aurie, what about you? Did your taste clearly didn't really change that much, did you? I know it didn't change.
So we're talking teenage years.
Yeah.
I just remember that kind of being in a more exploratory period of me developing my love for gaming beyond what everybody else loves about gaming to actually what about gaming do I like and what different types of games can I get into that is not traditionally everybody's favorite. And I think that's what my teenage years with gaming is how can I find out more about gaming that isn't just the same typical games everyone else is playing.
100%. I think that's the same for me. When I was a teenager, I developed a deeper love for MMOs, and I remember seeing, when you go on the websites and you see those advertisements, those banners, I saw Guild Wars advertised on that. And that was one of my favorite MMOs because they had the expansion pack that was based in Africa and the expansion pack that was inspired by Asia. And I was like, this is great. And that brought me more into the MMO world as a teenager. And then more FPS started coming out because of Halo and Xbox on Xbox Live. And then I just started learning more about what my tastes were as a gamer. I love RPG, I love fantasy, but as a kid, gaming was really dictated by what was in the magazines as well. Do you remember those gaming magazines that everyone used to get with the demos and stuff?
Yeah.
So like I just expanded beyond that. Do you remember them?
Oh, yes.
I used to love them so
Wipeout
much.
2097, I remember playing back to back. It was one level. I was at my uncle's house and my mum said, when this game's done, we're going home. So as soon as I got to the finish line, I reset the game. I must have played it for about 15 races before she realised I'm just resetting the game as soon as it gets to the end of the race. Because there's only the one level you could play. I remember those demos.
And maximise your playtime.
Would you bring any game that you played as a demo back?
I do know that the Final Fantasy VII demo was really, it was huge because it was all the way up to, I think, the prison in Midgar. So it was like massively expensive for the time, and people still speak very fondly of it, but yeah, I can't think of any other ones.
So I'm gonna move on to David because you create games for kids right now. So if we're talking about children today and what they like in gaming, what kind of things do you need to consider when you're making a game for children?
This latest game, I started thinking about it in terms of like, I have a 5-year-old and I love playing games with him and he likes games, but most of the games, not really age appropriate. And especially like open world games have this huge appeal, but they all have combat and factions and things that you don't want a little kid to, interact with. And we make games that are not violent. So bringing that, that joy of this kind of games to a different audience, that was a really huge appeal for me. The things that you can see, does this exclude children? It's all about like lowering the barriers and letting them be part of the game and doing things that, children like animals.
Yeah.
Mostly. Most children do. And like having this and having funny characters and having the dialogue doesn't talk down to them. So yeah, considering them humans and like trying to talk to the same level.
It's good, it's exciting, not trying to essentially talk down to the kids.
Exactly.
I like that.
I got a question, because you make games that are for children. The games that we grew up, which were kind of age appropriate, now when I look at them, I always ask the question, were they really? And I'm talking about even the most kid-like games.
Yeah.
For example, Super Mario, which for me would be a kid's game in terms of, but adults can love it because it's got that difficulty curve. But do you think that they're more kids-based, or do you feel that they are becoming a bit more violent, that like stepping on a Goomba's head was normal in 2D, but in 3D, you're flattening something. Does that still come across as a kid's game in your field, or is it more adult?
I think so, because the presentation is very different from, Doom to Mario.
Yeah.
Like Doom back then, like I remember playing Doom 2, and then like this is like something forbidden.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree with you.
And I think that it has the same allure at the same time. So like, I don't know, like depends on the kid, because, my son, we had to turn off the movie Trolls.
Really?
Because he was, the bad guys were trying to eat the good guys. So it's like, that's too much. But he's a massive fan of Home Alone.
Oh, okay.
So
not wait.
You mean the film with the rope where someone sets the rope on fire with a person?
He loves it. So I think like different kids react differently to different levels of violence and how they connect with that violence. And like when I was a kid, I loved Mortal Kombat.
I was playing Resident Evil as well.
Yeah,
all the
exactly.
time.
But so it's not gonna.
I was scared of Resident Evil.
I don't believe violence games are gonna make you violent.
Yeah.
Maybe they
No.
normalize things in a way, but also I do believe that doing different things in games is always
It's important,
better.
and exploring non-violent routes as well.
Exactly.
100%. So if you were to have for your future children, what kind of games would you introduce them to? Oh God, look at the smile already. Go on then.
Well, what age group are we talking? And when we say my future
all right, let's
children?
take 5-year-old for now.
Mario.
I suffer from Nintendo fanboyism.
Every Mario game you can think of. I think Nintendo have done such a good job of creating not just Mario, but creating their games to be so kid-friendly and to create a mascot which is so appealing and so pleasing to control, and still have a difficulty curve where the older they get, they don't feel like they grow out of it. So any game that is a platform Mario game, I'd love for my children to want to get involved in, and then maybe go through the back catalogue, because even I end up doing that now, where I'll play anything up to like Mario Odyssey and still go, no, I want to go back to 64 or to I think my favourite one has always been Super Mario World.
I still play it now.
Yeah, exactly. So that'd be mine at 5.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. I think so I have nephews who are like there's 3 of them, and the eldest is just getting to that age now where starting to get games and get what their auntie is in the games industry and feels a lot of that. But so yeah, he's absolutely obsessed with. I think Breath of the Wild was probably his first game.
I can see that.
And even before, but he couldn't even read the text for a lot of it. But he just as you say, it was that promise of discovery and that sort of the whole world opening up to him that I think just completely transported him, and he got in that game what is so brilliant about all games, that potential. It's really exciting. But yeah, totally love that.
I think Breath of the Wild is definitely something that I would introduce to my child because I love escapism, I love fantasy, so I'll be like, here, leave me alone, escape for 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Or 5 hours. I'm gonna have to cook you food, but yeah, do you know, like those kind of games I'd introduce them to. There's also games like not Subnautical, Abzu and Journey. Those that are more about the journey of the game and the environment and the soundtrack. They're so beautiful. I would love a child to be exposed to those.
Abzu is one of the first games I play with my son.
Exactly, it's so lovely.
And he loves it.
And dreams as well, I think, because there's a little element of learning to code in that as well, which I think is so beneficial for most kids nowadays, for sure.
It's cool. It's really good. I think sometimes there's a bad connotation attached to games nowadays as well. We have games like Fortnite and stuff like that, but people forget that there's also such variation out there that you can expose to children as well. Then maybe lesser known titles. It's really important. Flipping it on the other hand, what did your parents say about you becoming gamers and spending hours in front of the computer or the console or Game Boy as a child?
My parents did not get it. They still don't get it. And the worst part was when I was playing MMOs and they don't know that you can't pause it.
Pause the game and do the dishes now! Mom, you made me die! Good! Now you have time to pause the game and do the dishes!
And you're like going off on a raid and you're like, no, I can't pause the game. They're waiting for me.
You just brought back memories. You just brought back memories. Oh, God. What about yourself, David?
Yeah, I have, I think one of the reasons why I started playing games a bit later is, this, at least still back in the day, maybe still today, there's this conversation about gaming and addiction and all those things is like seen as like pernicious and dangerous to children. So and choosing a career in games is like, so I studied fine arts, which was already like, but you're good at computers, like why don't you like? And it's like, yeah, but I'm already good at computers. Fine, I can learn other things. But then when I said like I want to make games, it's like, but why games? Like, but you've been making films and all the things like. And I was like, I remember sitting her down and like put a trailer for the first Assassin's Creed. Like, this is what games can do today. This is what I want to be in games. And she's like, I think I get it.
What was her reaction to the trailer or the first bit of Assassin's Creed?
I think like she had the idea that games are like, these really simple things. They're all about repetition and children get obsessed with them. And seeing that there's a larger narratives and themes like that kind of speak to an adult, which is a conversation I have so many times with so many family members. Like, but that's something for children, and it's like no, but also like that's a choice, right?
Yeah.
Like if you make games, you can make them not for children.
And you, Aurie, coming from a Caribbean background?
My mum was the opposite.
Wow.
Loved it. I'll tell you why.
Really? That's awesome.
Better you're inside running game than on the street. Where I grew up, it's better she could see where I was in my house and see me want to play games, rather than having a young black boy on the streets running up and down causing foolishness. I'd be more than happy to for him to cause foolishness, thumping up people on Smash Brothers or in Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
I love that. It's amazing.
I love that. Big up mama.
Big up Mumsy.
Big up mumsy. So now it's time to release your inner child with a little quiz that we have on childhood in video games. It's multiple choice with one answer out of the 4 being correct. It's child's play. I'm sure you're gonna get the hang of it after 6 or 7 questions. So, question, you know what, let me move this side because I'm sure you can see my answers. Shit. Question number 1. A video game was recently adopted in schools and is now available in thousands of classes worldwide. I didn't even finish.
Does it begin with an M?
The game is A, Animal Crossing, B, Minecraft, C, Counter-Strike, or D, Mario Kart in driving school.
Say forgotten.
Minecraft.
There you go.
Yeah, well done. Did you know that, David?
I didn't know, but that would have been my guess.
Well, we haven't given David an extra point as well because everyone knows now. Question 2. The creator of Pokemon had the idea for this now cult game when he was a kid. What inspired him? A, he organized underground animal fights in his garage. B, he loved Digimon. C, during his vacation on the island of Hokkaido, he found a strange turtle with a blue shell. Or D, he liked to collect caterpillar pupas in order to watch them metamorphosize little by little into butterflies. All right, wait. Okay, well, Aurie was first.
Okay, it's the 3rd answer. He didn't do number 1. Number 2, Digimon came after Pokemon, and the 4th one, I highly doubt.
And you're saying Aoife?
Also C, I really hope A is not true.
Aoife, you're saying C, so the island on the
Yes.
vacation. David?
I had heard a story about bugs, so I'm gonna go for answer number 4.
You were right! Well done! Awesome, well done. Yeah.
Coming
you
up
like
the inside, coming up the inside lane. Oh.
collecting cat. Who would have known? I didn't know that, to be honest.
I thought it was free.
Yeah, so did I. The Norwegian high school Garns Vitteraganda added a new subject to their common lineup a few years ago. It's been taught to students 5 hours a week since 2016. What is this subject? A, esports, B, flight simulator, C, supply chain, or D, computer-assisted flirting?
Computer-assisted flirt?
I mean, I know a lot of people who use that.
Isn't that
That's
just
Tinder, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tips for Tinder.
Productive text. Productive text.
Reproductive text.
Predictive text.
I'm gonna say esports.
Esports for you.
Fly simulator?
I'm gonna say flight simulator. I don't know if they taught or teach esports. It could have been in universities 5 years ago, but I think it would have been a lot more prominent now. But flight simulator sounds like something that's been there for a while.
Got a point.
I don't know. She's trying to hint that it's esports. But I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it's
say
esports.
Yeah.
You made me doubt myself.
Sorry. I'm just like, when you finish talking, I'm gonna tell you you're wrong, so. Next question. Some children have participated in video game creation. This was the case for the son of Todd Howard, the game designer of Fallout 3. How did his son contribute to the game's development? A, he didn't sleep at night, so his dad ended up pulling all-nighters on the game. B, he threw up all over the keyboard while his dad was coding, which forced him to start all over from the beginning. C, he was the voice of the baby in the prologue. Or D, his dad got the idea from the character of a martyr when he hired his son's babysitter.
I'm gonna say B.
But B, I think, throw up on the keyboard wouldn't affect the coding though, would it? Because you're just plugging in another keyboard.
Unless he hadn't backed up and it, yeah.
I'm gonna say 3. The baby voices.
I think the baby voice as well, because you code, so you.
So if your baby is not sleeping, you don't pull up all-nighters. I mean, you take care of the baby all night.
Just leaving the baby.
A out the way. Then.
By the power of deduction, yeah.
And B, you code as well, so.
I don't code.
Oh, you don't do the
but
code? Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. If someone throws up on the keyboard, that's
plugging in the keyboard, yeah.
peripheral, yeah.
I want to say that I think it's most likely the voice of the baby. Yeah.
What's everyone saying?
Can I change my answer? That
Yeah,
sounds more
change
likely
that.
now. Yeah.
David?
Yeah.
You're all right, well done. Awesome.
Well, I led you lot down the wrong line.
Okay, next question. A character from Walt Disney inspired one of the most famous heroes in video games. Who was it? A, Peter Pan, who inspired Link. B, Alice in Wonderland, who inspired Peach. C, Robin Hood, who inspired Star Fox. Or D, Timon and Pumbaa, who inspired the dealers in GTA.
At least Star Fox wore trousers.
I think we know which one.
Yeah.
Now go on then, all of you.
Hey.
A.
Yeah, well done. David, were you going to say A?
I will add also a new answer to that Mickey Mouse inspired Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Final question. The youngest hacker in the world was a kid. How old do you think he was when he forced Microsoft to reform their security measures? A, 3 years old. B, 5 years old. C, 7 years old. D, 7 months. It was an AI.
I have no idea.
No idea.
I was expecting the answer to be like 17 years old or something like
Yeah.
that.
It's not a kid.
Yeah, I would have said like
Grow it
12 or
up.
something.
Yeah.
You can't do this. 7 months.
7, nah.
7 months is an AI. It's not really a kid though, is it?
No.
It's an AI. So
I'm gonna
7
say
years?
3.
Oh.
3.
3 years old.
Because maybe it's got to do with voice-activated commands, and it's a kid that's learning how to speak and communicate with the computer in ways that.
That's going to be a
So
much
then it
better
hacks.
story than it actually is, isn't it?
It made Microsoft reform the security measures from the baby going flabba, fleaba. And
Exactly. And you've heard the stories of
Simlish, yeah.
2-year-olds calling an ambulance for a fainting
Very
parent.
true.
So
I want to say, my head says 7, but for some reason I'm going leaning towards that 5. As if like 7 is just a Nazi.
it's too much. It's too old.
Yeah.
pay your mortgage by that age.
I'm gonna say 5.
Aoife?
I'm sticking with 7.
Answer's 5. Well done, Aurie. Amazing.
5. So 5. How? Does it say?
5 years old. Don't ask me no questions.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so the final scores are 4 to Aurie, 4 to Aoife, and 5 to David.
Hey,
well done.
Cool. Thank you.
You know more about kids than anyone else on this table. Thank you so much for joining me on this chat about childhood and telling me your stories of gaming as a child. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for
Pleasure.
having.
Thank
Thank you.
Now it's time for our top 5.
You may know the old saying, video games maketh the child. No? I'm not surprised, I just made it up. But there's truth behind it. Video games help children grow up, forcing them into big ethical decisions. Here's the proof. 5 games that helped us grow into proper responsible adults. Like Grandma's apple pie, but in console form. I should patent that. Number 5, Pokemon. As soon as you've learned how to hold a handset, Pokemon is the game that teaches you to make those big choices in life, as well as the difference between red and blue. In Pokemon, there is that formative moment where you have to choose between Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. This is a choice that determines who we are in life. If you like a challenge, you choose Charmander. If you like a fight, you choose Squirtle. And if you like an easy victory, you choose Bulbasaur. Yes, you heard me, Team Bulbasaur. You're a bunch of lightweights. Number 4, Minecraft. When you're a kid, you spend most of your time breaking everything. Toys, teeth, and eardrums of your parents. But with Minecraft, you learn to build cities, planets, entire universes. It teaches you a sense of responsibility. Number 3, Mario Party. The game that teaches us that not only is life often unfair, but also that it can be a total prick. As you approach the podium in Mario Party, you might find yourself 10 stars ahead, but you still wind up in last place. Just because your jammy opponent hit the jackpot. That day, the child in me died forever, and I stopped growing. Number 2, Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider has taught us many things. Adventure, archaeology, and above all, it taught the female gamers how to play a strong woman, and the male gamers to play a woman. And that in 1996, well, it was something. Number 1, Ocarina of Time. The game that teaches kids that just because you put yourself through hell, climbing mountains, traveling through time, fighting dragons, skeletons, and zombies, does not mean the princess has to like you. If you're not her type, you are not her type, no matter how well you play the ocarina.